This video is brought to you by
Hawkland, photographer's clothing.
In this video, I talk about ISO. And a lot of people are afraid of ISO, especially high ISO numbers. But there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of ISO. Actually, it's quite a useful helper and I use it a lot of times. ISO is just like aperture and shutter speed, something to make your image brighter most of the times, or even a little bit darker depending on what ISO number you start. Usually most cameras start at ISO 100. Some special cameras can go at lower numbers like 50, sometimes even 25, but those are artificial ISO numbers and usually you don't have that much dynamic range then, which means your sensor cannot capture that much of information when you have L ISO set, for example. So I would say usually go with ISO 100 as a base setting and don't use that option of L only when you don't have another option, just like f22 for example. And when you have ISO 100, the base ISO, then you can set the aperture and the shutter speed. And then when you are in a situation where you cannot open your aperture any further, or you want the shutter speed to be super fast, for example, or when you photograph in a situation like I do now where it's getting darker and darker and darker, that's very useful to use a higher ISO number. But as well when you are inside, for example, photographing maybe inside a church for a wedding, or maybe when you photograph sports indoors or something, then it's very useful to use high ISO numbers. Also for wildlife photography, for example, I use always high ISO numbers, sometimes 6,400, sometimes 12,000. For astrophotography, for Milky Way shots, I use high ISO numbers at night to capture all the details. So what is ISO actually? ISO is the sensitivity of your sensor. And with film, like when we photographed with film cameras, it was in the film. So you had to choose the film, the sensitivity of the film. Let's say ISO 100 was the sensitivity. Then you had to shoot the whole film, the whole ISO 100 film in a row. And then when you changed the film, you could change the ISO. Today, with modern cameras, it's not like this. You can just change the ISO whenever you want. When you take one picture, you have ISO 100, second picture ISO 200. You can also choose ISO Auto, which is super helpful. And the next lesson is a complete lesson only about ISO Auto because it is super helpful. So let's just do a test run with different ISO numbers here. And that's what I would recommend you as well, to just do a test run and see what your camera can do and how the ISO affects the image. And this is a perfect situation for a higher ISO number. If I want to photograph the beautiful village here with a small church tower in the background, then it's not possible anymore by hand without a higher ISO number. When I want to photograph that shot handheld with that long lens, it's a 200mm lens, then I need at least a 200th of a second of shutter speed. Or better, double the shutter speed, so 400ths of a second. But right now I'm around a 20th of a second at ISO 100 and the aperture is already max open. With this lens it's 4.0. But even if I could go more open, it's maybe not useful because I don't want the aperture to be that much open because I get a slighter depth of field and maybe it's not possible. Like with this lens, 4.0, that's it. I cannot go any further. So I have to increase the ISO and that's what we will do now. And I will then adjust the other settings that we just go up to 6,400, maybe even more. Let's try it out.
Hi, I'm Albert Ross, professional landscape photographer, and this is my Hawkland Parker Pro jacket. This red color is my personal signature edition. This is a great jacket system for outdoor photography. Why? It has multiple layers, not just this layer. It has a fleece layer, a mid layer, and this outer layer. It's very waterproof, it's windproof, and it's suitable for any kind of weather conditions. Anyone can wear it, but it's a jacket system aimed at photographers, meaning it has some very nice features like this little pocket with my lens cloth attached here. I can quickly take it out for my glasses or my lens or my filters. Then it has really big pockets here for accessories, and it has a lot of nice pockets inside for batteries, smartphone, SD cards. It's very convenient for me as a photographer to use, not only because of the weather, but also because of all these nice features.
Now on sale, discontinued and off-season items up to 60% off at www.hawkland.us.
Hawkland. Photographer's clothing.
So, first shot, I take now zero game ISO 100, so I adjust everything, and because I'm on the tripod, it's not that necessary to go with the high ISO because I can shoot everything with the tripod. But if I want to do it handheld, or if I have a moving object I want to photograph, like an animal or something, in this light scenario I need a faster shutter speed and I need a high ISO. So first thing I will do now, I turn on the 2-second self timer, because otherwise I will get a blurry image. More about that later. 2-second self timer on, and ISO 100, first image, let's go. All right, first image, ISO 100, looks beautiful. Now second image, ISO 200. And I can adjust now a little bit the shutter speed. Take the image, and so on and so on. And we now see us in a few seconds, and I capture everything here. All right, we went all the way from ISO 100 to 51,000. That is a lot for such a small camera. Usually when you have those lines next to the ISO number, that means it's shit. Just let's say it like this. But you can use it, but usually it does not look that good. But in my opinion, usually until 6,400, it's not a big deal for most cameras. And as you've seen now in the video, we put all the numbers next to the pictures. The pictures looked okay. And I always say better have a little grainy image than a blurry image. Think about a wildlife shot or a nice shot like this, and you have a blurry image. You would not print a blurry image, but you can print a grainy image. And I did not talk much about grain. That's what people are afraid of. The grain, those little dots in the image. But you usually only see it when you zoom in a lot. And some people use vintage filters. You even have the option in Lightroom or Photoshop to add grain, to make it look more beautiful. When you have Hollywood movies with digital cameras filmed, they add grain to make it look more natural and more, just real, not too smooth. And then on the other hand, photographers are afraid to have grain in their image. So don't care much about a grain. You can use noise reduction later in post-processing when you want to, or you can just add the grain because it gives some kind of life to the image. And again, better have the image as a grainy, crispy shot than have a blurry shot. That's all I can say about ISO. Don't be afraid of ISO. Sometimes you need the high ISO for Milky Way shots. You will never get a nice Milky Way shot with only ISO 100. Maybe with tracking when you make like a 8-minute exposure, then ISO 100, okay, maybe. But with one single shot, only from a tripod, you have to use a high ISO number. My little secret is ISO 6,400, 12,000, 20,000, depending on the camera. Then you can get really nice pictures of stars, but you need to do it. You need to use the ISO. And that's what I want to teach you. Use it. It's there to use it, not to avoid it. My exercise for you is to try out all the different ISO settings you have in your camera. Start with ISO 100 and go all the way up to your maximum. And then look at the images on your camera and on the computer and just judge for yourself. What is okay for you, what you don't like anymore, and then in the worst case, when you see a leopard there walking towards you, then choose the highest ISO number possible to get the sharp shot and not a blurry image of a leopard right next to you. That's all I can give you at hand. So enjoy it and use the ISO for your photography.
This video from my beginner's course Simply Learn Photography from 2023 is part of my photography legacy.
Over a period of 5 years, I will publish my courses from learnfromben.com for free and with ads here on YouTube. So everyone can benefit from my knowledge regardless of budget. So subscribe now to the channel and spread the word. And do you want all 9 courses from the last 10 years immediately bundled together and without advertisement at a super affordable price? Then go now to learnfromben.com and get the XXL Bundle as an instant download or stream via the website at www.learnfromben.com. More than 22 hours of the finest learning content on photography, filming and image editing in all levels of skill. Link is in the description and in the comments below. And also check out the sales section with my signature tripods and D-filters and books. Everything is on sale up to 60% off, as long as stocks last. Thank you for your support. Videos from the courses are published every Friday at 5:30 p.m. German time. My name is Benjamin Jaworskyj and I wish you all some really good photos.